All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're all having a fantastic Saturday so far. I know it's very early. I just finished watching. I'm looking at what time it is actually. It's like 9:30 here. I just finished watching the Chelsea Leeds game. It's good to see Pulisic out there as an American supporter. But one thing that I wanted to talk about because I saw this all over my timeline for some reason on Twitter when I woke up. As you can see, I'm still even in my PJs. Is everyone, not everyone, but I've been seeing a lot of people asking about the setup for the 4-1-2-1-2 narrow, or basically like any formation to try and beat the 5-3-2, which seems to be omnipresent right now. And it's really annoying because it's very defensive and it's not very fun to play against, and it really opens up a lot of people to just getting counterattacked, which is not really the most exciting way to play, in my opinion, at least. At least to like have it be played against you, because then you just feel like you're getting attacked, like very rarely. But the attacks are really effective because you're trying to get all your players forward to score on this like brick wall of just AI, if you will. So we're actually going to go over my tactics real quick. So as you can see, my guys are already set up in the 4-1-2-1-2 just for chemistry, but we'll go into the custom tactics and really talk about it. I use the 4-1-2-1-2 as an attacking one and as a defensive one, but I almost always use it as the attacking one. I also like the 4-2-2-2, which we'll get into as well, just as another option if 4-1-2-1-2 isn't really your thing. And then also why I have the 3-5-2 as another option. So I hope you guys enjoy this quick little video on why I have these formations the way I do, and I hope it helps you in deciding how you want to play. But yeah, I really appreciate it. And to just kind of like prove that these work, I know it says it on my screen, we're 12-0 in champs right now after the first day. I think it's 12-0, it might be 11-0. No, we're 12-0. We have 12 wins and we have 18 matches remaining. So it does work to some extent, at least. Whether I'm getting lucky is another thing. But yeah, so if we get straight into the custom tactics, the main thing that I like to do with the 4-1-2-1-2 narrow is I like to have someone who's pacey up top, and I like to have someone who's more like the dynamic, if you will. And so what I mean by that is I have Dalglish up top, which is the more dynamic person, ironically, and then I have Mbappe, who's the pacier one. And so the reason I say it that way is because the whole like aspect of the 4-1-2-1-2 is having these overlapping runs. And it's like, okay, well, Giga, how can you have overlapping runs when you literally have like everybody in this small of a space, like right here? And so the answer to that is you make them overlap just by having those small spaces. And that's kind of the key. You'll see in my tactics right here, my width is not very high. And so sometimes I even will bring it down to like 3, but I keep it at 5 right now. Just as a very balanced thing. I have a lot of people getting into the box because in order to beat this 5-3-2, you need a lot of attackers. Which can be very dangerous. It can be very, very dangerous. So you need to be able to like be okay with that if you get countered. But so essentially what we do is, for instance, like Rooney is a great example. You can see the triangle between Rooney, Mbappe, and Zola, right? So more often than not, when you're fighting against a 5-3-2, you'll find yourself in the midfield. And if I have like a video of this or like a clip of this somewhere, I'll put it in here. But you'll find yourself in against a 5-3-2, and you'll be sitting there with either like the ones I like to talk about are Rooney or Fair, and they're the midfielders that are defensively minded, the box-to-box middies, but they also can go forward as well. Rooney more so than Fair, but so that's why I'm using Rooney in this example. So the triangle that I was talking about with Rooney, Zola, and Mbappe is that what I like to do is I hold the ball with Rooney, I find Zola or Mbappe, and I pass it to them and do the L1 pass. So Rooney's on a go route at that point. I sometimes will direction give it, but I always direction give it with the right stick in a diagonal across the goal. And that's very, very key. The reason why that's so key is because if you direction it away from the goal, like down toward the corner flag, one that might give some sort of like space, maybe. And so that's why I don't like it. If it doesn't give the right spaces, the AI just figures out that like it's if the AI understands that it's just going to be running towards like, well, I'll get into it in a second here, but your fullback, they're not going to try and pick it up because they're just like it's two people in the same spot and they don't need to do anything about it. So what I'll do is I'll cross it across the goal. So let's say I have Rooney. He's going to make a diagonal run across the goal towards where Dalglish is supposed to be. Obviously, that doesn't always happen. And so as he's doing that, he's going to be opening up a space where theoretically, while you're giving the ball to either Zola or Mbappe, Dalglish is going to be making another run, like either away from that space or in a different amount of space. Or if you're doing it to Zola, then Rooney's directly crossing over you, right? Like in one way or another, Rooney or Fur. And then what you're doing with the person you're holding the ball with is you're trying to make a move to create space so that you can then like pass it in a triangle around to that overlapping run to Rooney. Or what you're doing is you're finding you're making options. And so you're either passing it to Rooney or you're passing it off to Dalglish. And whenever you have the Mbappe or Dalglish, you don't do L1 and then the pass button. And the reason for that is they usually just end up running into nowhere, especially if you're already in the 18. The main thing is like if it's with Mbappe is going to be running with his own like attack positioning and stuff into space, which is good, usually across the goal. And then if it's Dalglish who has the 5-star weak foot, Dalglish is the one where once you're in the 18, you have to either fake it one way and go the other, or vice versa, because they can go either way. And then the really interesting part to this that I really enjoy are the fullbacks, and so that's one reason why I think especially on the 4-2-2, yeah, I do have lower width, because what I do is I actually have the fullbacks unbalanced so that they will run past your attackers. So you can imagine in such a narrow formation like the 4-1-2-1-2, being able to have, your midfielder that you're sending forward go towards the goal or across the goal, and then also having your fullback that you're looking for trying to cut inside. And I know that like it doesn't really have that on here, but I would probably put these on inverted, if anything, because what that's going to do is you'll see like sometimes your fullbacks will be like really up high and they're not doing anything. And that's because they're trying to do an overlapping run. And that overlapping run like doesn't always work out very well. And so inverted will actually make them like cut inside. Like it's kind of like, I know like left mid and right mid will have options for like stay wide or cut inside. It's kind of like that idea. And so if you don't feel comfortable with that, just leave it on mixed, and then you'll see it. You'll watch them like come in eventually. If there's this space that you're creating by like dragging, for instance, dragging Rooney across the goal or Fur across the goal. Again, I'm going to try and get some like footage to like put with that so that it's easier to understand. But that's kind of the gist of the 4-1-2-1-2 narrow. If you find that having all of those different overlapping runs, and you can tell it's very attacking, like it's a lot of timing, it's a lot of like small space creation, but it's very tiki-taka, and if you get it right, it's super, super good. I'm sorry, I'm getting all these songs that are like really hype, and I don't need all this hypeness. But yeah, so that's kind of where I go with it. The 4-2-2 is very similar, and I'm just going to touch on these really quickly. Same sort of triangle ideas. This one, you can actually send Rooney or Zola, but you can send them forward. Like, you don't have to cross the goal. You can send them forward because what will happen is, let's say you're sending Rooney again. If you send him forward and the ball's to Mbappe or Dalglish, you automatically have a triangle with either Mbappe or Dalglish at that point. Like Mbappe, the second forward that doesn't have the ball, will usually like either sit in or make a run as well. And so that's where you're trying to find these open spaces to help your AI like find a slot, if you will. And then once they are making their runs and they're doing it away from the attacker or the defenders and stuff like that, your fullbacks can kind of come in and, make another run, I guess is the easiest way to say it. But like again, if you're not comfortable with that, definitely don't like have them on stay back while attacking. It's just nice to have an extra person in there so that you're like dragging one of their CDMs out with the fullback. And that's why you can see my fullbacks are really high dribbling and passing people because they need to be able to like get the ball around that extra the CDM so that they can get it to the person who's hopefully getting open. The last one is the 3-5-2. The 3-5-2 is really more so if you're like feeling like you're down out of the game, and you're finding that like your narrowness isn't helping you because they have sometimes when they play the 5-3-2 or they play like there's another 5-back formation, that's very like it's like the 5-1-2-1-2 or something like that, the 5-2-1-2. All of a sudden you're just like clogging the midfield, and then what you can do is you can go into the 3-5-2. And the guys on the wings, what they'll do is they provide a little extra width at that point, and if they can overlap the wing backs, you'll really find that it's like it's not easy, but it's a lot easier to try and cut in behind, and then you're looking for the cutback sort of thing. The 3-5-2, I would say, unless you're willing to get scored on a lot, is not something that you should go for. But it is a lot of fun, and I want Rooney there. And it definitely makes for a very like fast-paced game. The only thing I don't like about the 3-5-2 are that the wingers, they will like stay high, if that makes sense. So I might even do balanced. And so the reason I'm saying they stay high is because they will like they'll try and go up towards the fullbacks, and then once they reach the fullbacks, they don't like come back and make new runs, it feels like. Like they feel very stagnant at that point. It's kind of like the fullbacks on the 4-1-2-1-2. If they like get forward, like if you had these guys on join the attack, and then once they're in the attack, they just kind of stand there, and that to me is like it's like a waste of space. Like they're not doing anything; they're just not in position to defend at that point. So that's one thing you got to worry about. But otherwise, I hope that this gives some sort of like background or some sort of idea of how you might want to play the 4-1-2-1-2 or 4-2-2-2, so on and so forth. It's really it's a great formation, and I played multiple weekends with the 3-5-2 and decided that it's just not my jam. And the 4-1-2-1-2 is a little more fun. I like the more like space opening tiki-taka-ness of it compared to the 3-5-2. The thing that I will say though is there are going to be many times where you feel like all you're doing is doing give and goes, and that can really, really, really become like monotonous. And I mean, it's kind of effective, but at the same time, you'll notice that your possession stats will be really low and you don't have the possession a lot of time. So the other thing is you'll find that you are opened up to the wide plays of the 5-3-2 on defense. So you have to be confident in yourself in playing like a zone with your center mids, the box-to-box ones, and not drag your center mids all the way out to where the wing backs are. Because if you do that, like you're falling into the 5-3-2's trap. So again,